Good morning, Queensland, and good morning, Toowoomba. Sorry we're a little bit late this morning with our press conference, but we just want to, first of all, we'll be running this in two stages. So first of all, the Treasurer and I will give the COVID update and deal with any issues relating to that. And then we have a significant announcement here, of course, at Wellcamp, which we'll hand over to Dennis Wagner to introduce. So first of all, I just want to advise everyone that we have one local case, community case, but we're not worried about it at all because it's in home quarantine and is part of that Sunnybank cluster. So as you can see, our people who are doing the good job of staying in their home quarantine, we're still getting positives coming through. So we're not worried about that at all. So that's excellent news. So in the last 24 hours, we've done 11,913 tests. So once again, excellent work of Queenslanders coming forward with any symptoms to get tested. Yesterday, Queensland Health did 23,933 vaccines. So everyone can see our vaccination rates are going really well. And for information here for locals in Toowoomba, 619 people got their vaccination here in Toowoomba, and in Warwick over 800 people got theirs, so that's fantastic news. We are now at 60.99% of one dose and 42.25% of eligible Queenslanders have their second doses. Now, I've also got some interesting news today as well, and that's in relation to allowing more walk-ins at some of our centres. So from today, walk-ins will be allowed at Caboolture, Doomben, Kippa and the Brisbane Entertainment Centre at Boondall. So we know that people are finding walk-ins a lot easier. We'll be looking at other centres later on during the week, and we are also looking at having another Super Pfizer weekend in a couple of weekends' time, but we'll keep you posted on that. But the key is, of course, to get as many people vaccinated as possible. Secondly, I want to just say this. A few weeks ago, I raised the issue about this being the pandemic of the unvaccinated. I raised very clearly that there was an issue and we needed a plan for young children between the ages of 5 and 11 who weren't vaccinated. What was the plan for them? Whether that means going to school and wearing masks if we are in the midst of a pandemic. I was loudly criticised from all sections of the media. I was attacked relentlessly by the federal government. And today and yesterday we hear that Greg Hunt is now speaking with the TGA to run analysis of the trials of 5 to 11s, which Pfizer has been conducting. I just want to say to Queenslanders that I will always protect you and do what I think is right. But I will not be criticised for no reason and then for the federal government to pick up on what I've been saying. So I would like an apology from Greg Hunt. I think it is very disappointing that all I'm trying to do is protect this state, to protect our children, and to be attacked relentlessly. I think now Queenslanders should feel vindicated that the federal government has looked to the international research and is now doing something about it. Now, are there any questions about the COVID update? Then I'll hand over to the Treasurer.
I have a question for COVID.
Sure.
Just in regards to AstraZeneca vaccinations, I understand you've received, or Queensland's received more than 800,000 doses, but only used about 240,000 of that. Why is that?
No, that would have gone to the GPs, Shannon, so you need to ask the federal government why the GPs have not been administering AstraZeneca. But let me say very clearly that as more supply comes in from the federal government, people are demanding a choice, and people have that choice now. And as you can see, people are getting vaccinated.
Premier, the Human Rights Commission is most concerned about heavy-handed decisions by the exemptions unit. Isn't the problem more than just requiring more staff?
No, we need to actually have, as I said, we need to have more clinicians. Look, I respect what the Human Rights Commissioner is saying. I did hotel quarantine myself. It's tough. You know, it is actually 14 days not being able to leave your room is pretty tough. I've done it myself. And look, as we get more and more people vaccinated, you know, we will be looking at further options. The National Cabinet is considering other options. There is a trial at the moment on in South Australia, but let me say it very clearly, and I say it every day. The reason we have an exemptions unit in Queensland is because there is a massive outbreak on our doorstep in New South Wales. There are tens of thousands of people who have the virus in New South Wales. it is still spreading. People are ending up in the hospitals, and the hospitals are going to be overwhelmed next month in New South Wales. I am very concerned with what's happening in New South Wales. I'm even very concerned with what is happening in Victoria. So that is why we have this window of opportunity to get as many Queenslanders as possible vaccinated. You know, it's great to see we've hit that 60% threshold, that first one, but we need to keep getting Queenslanders vaccinated, and I want to make it as easy as people to get vaccinated. That's why we've got pop-up clinics. That's why we're taking our clinics out to our workplaces, and that's why now we're looking at doing more walk-ins. But I need people to get vaccinated. I went and visited the Hervey Bay vaccination clinic yesterday, and people were coming in and they were so proud to tell me that they have been vaccinated. You know, so this is great news right across Queensland. And I'll tell you the other thing that people are saying to me is that they don't want to end up like New South Wales. And the only way we're not going to end up like New South Wales is if we have strong borders and is if we also keep getting vaccinated. So this is what we're doing, and this is what I want Queenslanders to continue to do.
The Commissioner said, though, that in some instances it appears that the exemptions unit has favoured celebrities over Queensland.
Well, I reject that. I reject that.
Is the government's approach too heavy-handed?
I reject that. These are people, the people are doing their very best. They're looking at all the compassionate grounds. It is a very stressful time for all Queenslanders that are separated from family and friends. And the best way that we can see family and friends again is to get vaccinated.
Premier, when you're looking at home quarantine, is it still a good use of taxpayers' money to build a quarantine facility here at Toowoomba? Absolutely,
because we're going to need a regional quarantine facility to look at whether it's supplementary labour for agricultural industries, whether it's international students coming in, and whether it's even domestic travellers. It is much better to be able to get some fresh air than it is to be stuck in a hotel room. So, you know, all of these things, these facilities should have been built ages ago. I've been talking about regional quarantine for a long, long time. Howard Springs has worked very well, and the one that the Wagners will build here will be the state-of-the-art facility in Australia.
Do you think it will be well utilised, given that you won't have international flights landing here, or do you plan to try and get
international flights land here? International flights land here. There is no problem with international flights landing here.
Yeah, but the international flights don't regularly land here at Wellcamp Airport. They land at Brisbane.
But they can land here.
So will you make it mandatory for them to land here? If they
we'll have to talk to the federal government, but there is no reason why they can't land here.
Is it concerning? We had some reports today about a police officer that appears to have assisted his daughter getting across the border. Is that concerning?
Yeah, look, of course it's concerning. We want everyone to do the right thing. These are very difficult times. You know, it's very difficult times at the moment for people across the Tweed and Byron Bay having to go into another 7-day lockdown because the New South Wales has issued those orders. This is the Delta virus. It is highly contagious. It is much more contagious than Alpha. We are dealing with something the likes of which we've never seen before. It can spread like wildfire. That is why the New South Wales government has put in place stay-at-home orders for people who are living in those northern New South Wales regions.
Premier, is the healthcare system in regional Queensland really under as much pressure as the LNP are making it out to be?
The healthcare system is experiencing pressures right across Australia. It is not unique to Queensland. Nearly every other Premier and first Chief Minister are expressing the exact same issues that are happening here. For some reason, during the pandemic, it might have been during those weeks and months that people weren't accessing healthcare, that suddenly everybody is. So we're putting extra money into our emergency departments, we're putting extra money into the health budget, but I don't want to see our hospital systems overwhelmed like we will see happening in New South Wales over the next month. And we wish all the very best to people in New South Wales going through this very tough time at the moment. We know it's tough for people in Victoria and tough in New South Wales. And this virus could arrive on our doorstep at any time. And that is exactly why I'm saying to Queenslanders, now is the time to go and get vaccinated.
Premier, just a quick Olympics question. The Australian Institute of Sport has previously flagged its intention or investigation of moving to Queensland. Is that something that your government would look at? Do you want the AIS and the AOC and Oz Cycling and water polo to be based here?
Absolutely. I want to see as many the Olympics are in 2032, so there's a long time to go. So there's a lot of years ahead of us, and I think we've shown that Queensland can be the sports capital of Australia, and we would welcome those sporting bodies eventually moving here. I mean, that's not going to happen overnight. That's going to take years, but I think that's a show of confidence in Queensland. And shortly you'll be seeing another big sign of confidence in Queensland when we talk to you about a very special announcement today, which will mean jobs for this region and is a Queensland, if not an Australian, first.
Just one other question. What are your thoughts on the Commissioner's ultimatum for cops to get vaccinated, or at least get their first dose by October 5?
Yeah, well, look, that's a matter for the Commissioner, but we do know that our police and our health professionals are on the front line, just as our flight crews are as well, and they're dealing with the public all the time, so it's about keeping Queenslanders safe.
And just regarding the suspicious death of a 35-year-old man at Cairns Central Shopping Centre this morning, is there any truth to the suggestions it might have been terror-related?
Look, I'll wait for police to update me. I just heard about that when I was landing here at Wellcamp, so I think I'd wait for the police, but I understand there's some shocking scenes this morning.
And one last question, because we're covering for Channel 10.
Sure.
Inland border areas like Wollongara and Jennings say they're being sliced in half and livelihoods are ejected because of a situation that could have been easily fixed. Has anyone been to those areas to assess the situation? Basically, if they shifted the checkpoint 200 metres, these towns would be cut. Yeah, and guess what? We've also been trying to move the checkpoints to the Tweed to make sure that the Tweed and southern parts of the Gold Coast can be together as well. But unfortunately, these are matters for the New South Wales government because they are New South Wales residents. So they are matters for New South Wales. But I feel for these communities. These communities, it's very difficult when you're border communities at the moment. And we look forward to the day where people can move freely once again. But that's not going to happen until we get people vaccinated.
I mean, I might also ask, so we're seeing some pretty concerning things out of Melbourne the last few days. Does that concern you about the country being closed off for longer?
Look, it is. I've seen those images. It is, of course, a very distressing situation for the residents and communities watching that in Victoria, and I hope that that life can move back to some sense of normality. It's a very difficult time at the moment. This pandemic is causing a whole lot of issues which we've never seen before. And it's really taking its toll on a lot of people. But I think the Premier would probably say the same thing in Victoria, just asking for everyone for calmness and peace. I might just get the Treasurer to say a few words, and then we need to move on to this significant announcement, everybody. Thanks, Treasurer.
Well, good morning to everyone here in Toowoomba and everyone watching online. In a little while, the Premier and I will make a very important announcement about the future of manufacturing, advanced manufacturing in Queensland, the future of our defence industries and also the future of jobs in Queensland, the next stage in rolling out our economic recovery plan for Queensland. But the reason we can be here today, the reason we can make this announcement is not by accident, it's not by chance. The reality is if you get the health response to COVID right, you get the economic benefit. If you get the health response to COVID right, everything else follows. And when you get the health response wrong, you see what happens. You see the disaster. You see the disaster that Delta delivers. And we only need to look south of the Tweed to see what's happening in New South Wales and Victoria. Lawlessness and rioting in the second largest city in Australia, Melbourne. We see hospitals in New South Wales entirely overrun, unable to take patients. We see the ambulance system in New South Wales, the New South Wales Ambulance Service, cracking under the pressure. Last week, the average response time for a Code 1 ambulance, that is lights and sirens, that is a life-threatening condition, the average response time was 59 minutes. And we see that happening day after day. Every day in New South Wales, very tragically, more people are losing their lives than have lost their life in Queensland during the entire course of the pandemic. And we haven't done this by accident. We've done it because, under the leadership of our Premier, we've got the big calls on the health response to COVID right every single time. It isn't by accident that Queensland has created not just more jobs than any other state, we have created more jobs than every other state combined since the depths of the pandemic last year. That is because we've got the call on the health response right and Queenslanders have responded. Queenslanders have been united in their response to this virus. and that will continue in the future. A couple of weeks ago, the Premier made some very sensible and reasonable comments about what we were going to do to protect the most vulnerable in our community, children. And she was subject to criticism from across the country, but in particular criticism from the Federal Health Minister Greg Hunt and some of his colleagues in the Morrison government. How often does Queensland have to get it right for the rest of the country to listen? How often does Queensland have to get it right for the rest of the country to understand the health response we have in Queensland has kept our people safe, has kept our economy open, has allowed us to make big announcements about the future of our economy and to look beyond the shackles that COVID puts on all of us in this country? And so the Premier's right. The Health Minister, who now welcomes and is heartened by the trial tests that Pfizer have done on children aged 5 to 11 for their vaccine, showing very positive results that small doses of the Pfizer vaccine provides protection from children 5 to 11. The Premier's right. The Health Minister federally, Greg Hunt, should be responding and apologising, but more importantly, we should not be subject to constant criticism from the federal government by taking every step we need to take to keep our people protected. Queenslanders know that. We've been in regional Queensland in the last couple of days. I've been in Bundaberg, so's the Premier. We've been in Harvey Bay. The community there is united. They want to be protected against the Delta variant, which is more dangerous than we thought it was when it originally came to Australia. It's why we need a quarantine facility here. We needed a quarantine facility in Queensland months ago, but the federal government would not respond. In fact, we needed it a year ago. For 120 years, the Australian Constitution has said the national government is responsible for quarantine, and we've had to put people into hotel rooms to keep our people safe in this state. So it's about time the federal government looked and listened to what states like Queensland and Western Australia were doing to keep our people protected, to keep our economy open, and they looked to the leadership of our Premier and other Premiers who've kept their people safe.
Good morning, everyone. Dennis Wagner is my name, and on behalf of my brothers Neil, Joe and John and the staff of Wagner Corporation, could I welcome everyone here this morning. Could I make a special mention and special welcome to the Honourable Premier of Queensland and Minister for Trade, Annastacia Palaszczuk, the Honourable Treasurer and Minister for Investment, Cameron Dick, Scott Carpendale, Vice President and Managing Director of Boeing Australia, and the Boeing team that is with Scott today, our Mayor Paul Antonio. So Paul, it's good to see the Bush Telegraph back working. Could I now ask Christian Rose to welcome us to country?
Yama Gara Christian Rose Yaluhi. My country is around St George in Western Queensland, and as such this is not my traditional country. It's appropriate for us at this point to acknowledge the Gayabal, Jarawa and Barangam people who are of the mighty Waka Waka Nation. I also acknowledge our elders past, present and emerging, and I ask our ancestors to give us their blessings as we meet here today for really important business. I'd like to provide a blessing, and as such, if I could ask you all to please bow your heads. Gathabal Yilathu, Gawa Li Warragal, Wenanga Li, Gindai, Gimbali. Be thankful for today. We speak with dignity and truth. We have work to do to look after our country and make our future brighter. Thank you.
Thanks, Christian. If I could now call on the Premier to speak. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis, and it's wonderful to be back here in Toowoomba, and it's wonderful to catch up with the entire Wagner family and, of course, the Treasurer and the Mayor, Paul Antonio, but also to Scott from Boeing Defence. So today is a very important announcement because our government has been working very closely with the Wagners and with Boeing about where we can actually have an advanced manufacturing facility in Queensland. You may remember a year ago, just over a year ago, we were in Wacol talking about the possibility that we could have these unmanned aircraft manufactured here in Queensland. Well, I'm very pleased to say that today we can confirm that a site and an agreement has been reached, and we are very much looking forward to having. So not only is it a Queensland first, it's an Australian first as well. We welcome, when we look at diversifying our economy and the fact that we can actually have opportunities like this here in Queensland, essentially because we've had that strong health response. In our economy today, people are going out working, people are going to schools, people are going about their ordinary day-to-day business. Tonight they're going to be catching up with friends and families, or going to a pub, or going to a cafe, or going to a restaurant to celebrate someone's birthday. This is happening because we've had a strong health response, and now we are looking at diversifying our economy. And I really want to thank the Treasurer, who has been the lead in working with Boeing to bring about this fantastic opportunity for the region and for the state. So I thank everyone very much, and this loyal wingman is going to transform the way in which we improve our defence capability right here in Queensland. Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks, Premier. Treasurer, would you like to say a few words?
Well, the fertility of the plains of the Darling Downs are legend. And now the skies west of Toowoomba are set to deliver a new harvest of jobs and opportunities for Queenslanders. The Premier and I are so delighted to be here today to welcome this announcement by Boeing and the Wagner Corporation that the preferred construction site for the new Loyal Wingman aircraft will be right here in Toowoomba. This is a very significant decision by Boeing. Boeing has made this decision to manufacture this aircraft in Queensland. After scouring the state, looking all over the state for the best place to manufacture this aircraft, they have decided that the Wellcamp precinct at Wellcamp Airport is the best place for that facility to be constructed. As the Premier has indicated, this is a very important announcement, not just for Queensland but for Australia. This will be the first aircraft of its type made in Australia for 50 years. This is the first facility of its type to be built by Boeing outside of the United States. And Boeing is, of course, the biggest and best aerospace company in the world. And they've made a decision to construct this aircraft subject to orders from the federal government, and we know the federal government is working very closely with Boeing on determining the order that they require. Subject to those decisions, final decisions, that facility will be built here and the aircraft will be made in Queensland. So the aircraft on the inside will be painted maroon, and they'll be carrying a stamp that says, the best stamp of all, that says made in Queensland. And we are so proud of this because it's not just about the aircraft, it's about everything that goes into the production chain and the supply chain for this aircraft. We want this facility to be constructed here to be an attractant for other investment, for other people who want to invest in advanced manufacturing, technology, aviation, aerospace. We want Queensland to be a leader in that space, and we are getting the runs. We are delivering for Queensland. We have a 10-year plan for growing the aviation and aerospace industry in Queensland, and we are delivering. We've delivered almost every year since we announced that 10-year plan. And we've got, of course, the Qantas Group pilot training facility right here at Wellcamp. We've got a maintenance, repair and overhaul facility that Alliance Airlines, currently one of the most profitable airlines in the world based in Queensland, now going to be built in Rockhampton. We are delivering those future jobs for Queensland. And the reason we're doing that, the reason we can make these announcements, the reason that we are attracting investment to Queensland and all the jobs that come with that is because Queensland is safe. We've been able to manage the pandemic better than almost any part of the country. We've been able to put out the welcome mat to investors who want to come to Queensland, and we welcome them, just as we welcome this announcement today. So to Scott and his team, to the Wagner family and the Wagner Corporation, this is an important day for the future of jobs in Queensland, for the future of economic opportunity as we look beyond COVID to deliver those opportunities for Queenslanders.
Thanks, Treasurer. And it is an important day, and I can say that we totally concur that Toowoomba and Wellcamp is a great place to do business, and particularly in the advanced manufacturing space. If I could now call on Scott Carpendale to speak on behalf of Boeing.
Thank you, Dennis. Premier Palaszczuk, Treasurer Dick, Mayor Antonio, Wagner Corporation leaders, fellow Boeing leaders, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honour to be with you today. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Jadawar and Gayabal people, and pay respects to elders past, present and future. In my role, I get to talk to a lot of our young engineers across the company, and I ask them what excites you about working at Boeing. I get a range of responses. Some are very passionate about working on projects that defend our nation. Others just want to work on the most challenging technology possible. When I talk to the people who work on the uncrewed aircraft program, the Boeing Air Power Teaming System, my response generally starts with a beaming smile and is followed universally by them telling me I get to work on the coolest project ever. And this project is one where they're contributing to the design and manufacture of an aircraft, an uncrewed one at that, right here in Australia. Reminds me of a slogan we used to have on our banners that said, "What others dream, we do." And I believe that's the essence of what we do at Boeing and what we're doing on this program. We take big ideas, really big ideas, we turn them into concepts and then we make it real. That's why I'm so pleased to be here today with our fantastic and supportive partners in the Queensland Government for this significant announcement. It's also an important day for our company globally. As the Premier mentioned, it's the first time Boeing has built a final assembly production facility outside of North America. We're very proud to achieve that. We watched earlier this year as the aircraft, known as the Loyal Wingman, completed its first flight less than 3 months after conception. Our development work on the program with our co-developers, the Australian Government and the Royal Australian Air Force, continues well as I speak to you today. In fact, the RAF's support for the Loyal Wingman program has set off somewhat of a revival of the aerospace manufacturing industry here in Australia. We're confident in the future production outlook for this world-class aircraft, and we're focused on growing and supporting advanced manufacturing and creating sovereign capability within Australia, including a lot of small to medium enterprises. But nowhere more so than here in Queensland, where Boeing's defence headquarters are and more than 1,700 Boeing staff are based. We also have 8 key suppliers, including a number of small to medium enterprises, contributing to the design, development and production of this platform. We're very proud to be working with the Wagner Corporation to build a state-of-the-art advanced manufacturing facility for this fantastic program, including the use of sustainable construction methods to create a leading sustainable aerospace manufacturing facility from the ground up, featuring renewable technologies and human-centric design. We see the Toowoomba region as an opportunity-rich environment for us to be able to build an advanced manufacturing workforce for the future. We're in an exciting time for aerospace and defence here in Australia, and in particular in Queensland, and I'm delighted that Toowoomba is going to take a real key part in that. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott, and I think everyone in this city and this region will be delighted as well. If I could now just take a couple of minutes of your time, we will do a fly through of the facility and so give you some idea of what it will be like.